Ilene moved swiftly. She contacted a lawyer that very day, laying out the details of her marriage and the quiet destruction it had suffered in the span of a single conversation. The lawyer had listened, her calm professionalism a balm to Ilene's turmoil. "Are you sure this is what you want?" the lawyer asked as she prepared the papers. Ilene hesitated, but only for a moment. "I'm sure." She couldn't tell Richard. Not yet. Not until she had everything in place. Instead, she spent the next few weeks going through the motions, watching as Richard came and went with Vivian, each time more painful than the last. She could hardly stand the sight of him anymore. His touch felt foreign, and his once comforting presence now suffocated her. But Richard didn't seem to notice. He thought everything was fine, until it wasn't. When Richard finally found the divorce papers, Ilene was at home, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. His eyes were wide, his hands shaking as he held the papers up. "What is this?" he demanded. Ilene didn't flinch. "It's what you wanted." "What? No, Ilene, this isn't what I wanted. I just wanted to explore. But our marriage, I never wanted to end this." Ilene's voice was cold, detached. "You ended it the moment you walked out that door to be with her." No, it was just sex, Ilene. I told you that. There was no emotional connection. I don't even want to see Vivian anymore. Please, we can close the marriage back up. We can go back to the way things were." But things could never go back. She watched him as he rambled on, pleading for a second chance, but all she could think about was how easy it had been for him to walk out on her, how simple it had been for him to betray her trust. "No, Richard," she finally said, her voice steady. "I'm done." The realization hit him slowly, his face crumbling as it sank in that this wasn't just a threat. This was the end. And as much as he begged, as much as he tried to backtrack, it was too late. Ilene had already decided to move on. Life after Richard was quieter, lonelier in some ways, but it was also liberating. She threw herself into her work, pouring all her energy into her career. It helped that she was financially secure, far more so than Richard. She made 3 times his income, a fact that had always bothered him more than it ever did her. Still, the hurt lingered. It was hard to trust again, to open herself up to the idea of someone new. That's when she met Teddy. He wasn't like Richard. Where Richard was charismatic and outgoing, Teddy was shy, reserved. He worked in IT, and when he came to her office to fix a computer issue, they bonded over something as simple as binary code, 1s and 0s. At first, it was just small talk. Then, over the weeks, they found themselves lingering longer in conversation, and Ilene began to look forward to his visits. Teddy had a softness about him, a quiet kindness that she hadn't realized she was missing. One day, Teddy shyly asked her out, his cheeks turning red as he stumbled over the words. Ilene's heart swelled, but at the same time, she felt a familiar pang of sadness. I can't, she said softly, the words hurting her more than they should. Teddy's face fell, but he nodded, understanding in his eyes. "It's okay," he said, his voice gentle. "I get it." Richard, for all his flaws, wasn't ready to let Ilene go. After months of separation, he convinced her to give their marriage one more shot. He promised counseling, change, anything she wanted if she would just give him a chance. And for a time, Ilene considered it. She didn't want to fail, didn't want to look back on 15 years of marriage and see it as a waste. They went to counseling. They talked. They tried to rebuild what had been shattered, but there was always a part of her that couldn't forgive him. That night, his request, his betrayal, was a constant shadow over them. One day, out of the blue, Ilene received a text message. It was from Teddy. His words were simple, but they struck her deeply. "I've been thinking about you." Ilene stared at the screen, her heart pounding as she read the message over and over again. It was everything she had wanted to hear, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to smile.